Danny, these are just, I mean, blockbuster numbers, really. But given that BYD also had to price discount to get to this point, is it really good for the company? And what does it signal as well to the rest of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen BYD and a few other EV makers post record monthly numbers. But for BYD, they've had a record quarter and they're showing signs of really good momentum. But at what cost? Clearly, the cost to earnings will show in a couple of months' time when we see their second quarter results. But when we see this idea of potentially slowing demand in certain parts of the world, at least in China, the world's biggest auto market, the biggest EV market, clearly there is a lot of appetite. And what car makers, EV makers had to do is to stoke that demand, to find that kind of competitive edge. And they've wielded the price cuts, and BYD, with having the biggest war chest, is able to do that. So really good for BYD, good for the broader industry, because China going through this EV transition, it wants to show that it can stay ahead in this race, and particularly where it's blocked out of certain markets now, such as China and potentially out of Europe with higher tariffs.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because just looking at the electric vehicle sales alone, it was 426,000 vehicles being sold or purchased by consumers. That's not quite enough to knock Tesla off its perch as the top EV seller globally. Given the tariff risk, do we see it perhaps having to be content with that second place position for a while longer?
I think it's going to be fascinating to see just what BYD does to adapt to foreign markets. Clearly, they're selling a lot more battery electric vehicles currently, but it could change up its product mix, particularly push more hybrids onto the market, plug-in hybrids onto the market, where it doesn't face additional tariffs and it can focus more on selling pure electric vehicles at home. But ultimately, we'll see later on tonight how Tesla performs in its second quarter. But it has more downwards momentum, and we heard this from Elon Musk this morning, that there would be a lot of pressure on the annual numbers. So for potentially BYD, it could still overtake Tesla, but it's going to be very, very tight across the board. And it's still got that momentum as it sells more vehicles.
Is most of BYD's production and sales concentrated domestically? I mean, we talked about the consumption patterns and that perhaps the domestic demand for BYD might be able to offset some of those challenges coming from tariffs. But what about the production side of things? Can they diversify, or is it enough to be within China?
Yeah, BYD's production is mostly focused in China. It's trying to change that at the moment. They've got new production facilities coming online soon this year in Thailand. They've got production coming out of even Uzbekistan, and they've obviously earmarked other levels of investment in Brazil and other parts of Europe that will come on stream in the coming years. So for now, it has to produce at home, face the potentially the higher tariffs when they do come, but when it comes to sales, it is getting that momentum in terms of global sales, and its exports now in the second quarter has topped 100,000, which is a new high. But clearly with the tariffs that may come down the way in terms of additional tariffs, I think we'll have to wait and see just what kind of impact that could have and how they try to navigate that.